Today we're diving into 7 of the creepiest unsolved highway killings in America. Real stories that will make you think twice before your next road trip. From couples vanishing on scenic roads, to victims dumped along trucker routes, to a killer so bold he struck in broad daylight and vanished like a ghost. These crimes are all real, terrifying, and still unsolved. We've got stories of serial killers the FBI still can't identify, mysterious notes left behind by the killer himself, and highways that locals refuse to drive on at night. And trust me, story number 5 will leave you speechless. But don't say I didn't warn you.
At least 6 people in cities across the Midwest has never been found.
32 years later, retired journalist wants to make sure this case is never forgotten. As KSHB 41's Alyssa Jackson tells us, the community still remembers it like it happened yesterday.
In the spring of 1992, a quiet stretch of America's I-70 corridor became the hunting ground for a killer with a chilling routine. It started in Indianapolis. A 26-year-old store clerk named Robin Fuldor was working alone when a man walked in. No robbery, no struggle, just a single precise bullet to the head. Days later, nearly 200 miles away in Wichita, Kansas, 2 more clerks were gunned down. Same setup. Small specialty stores. Victims alone, nothing stolen. Same bullet type. Same cold execution. And just like that, the I-70 killer had a pattern. He struck in daylight, chose isolated businesses, and targeted young brunettes working alone. Investigators across Indiana, Kansas, Missouri, and Ohio scrambled to connect the dots, but the killer was always gone before anyone even knew something had happened. Witnesses describe him as calm, clean-cut, and average-looking. Someone who could walk past you at a gas station and not raise suspicion. He was methodical, quick, and utterly ruthless. Despite eyewitness sketches, ballistic evidence, and multi-state task forces, the I-70 killer was never identified. Not a single arrest. Not a single confirmed motive. And to this day, some believe he didn't stop. He just moved on. Because in 2001, nearly a decade later, 2 eerily similar shootings occurred in Texas. Same victim profile, same method, same caliber weapon. Whoever he was, he seemed to vanish into the American interstate system. A ghost with a gun and a deadly obsession. And the scariest part, he could still be out there. It all began in 1971, when a 13-year-old girl named Carol Spinks vanished while walking to a nearby 7-Eleven in southeast Washington, D.C. 6 days later, her body was discovered near I-295. Authorities believed she had been killed shortly after her disappearance. And what struck investigators the most was the location, close to the highway hidden in plain sight. Just a few months later, another girl went missing, then another. Over the span of just over a year, 6 girls all between the ages of 10 and 18 were found dead along highways in or near DC. Each case eerily similar. The media gave the unknown killer a name, the Freeway Phantom. Despite public outcry and massive investigation, the killer remained a ghost. No eyewitnesses, no confirmed suspects, only patterns and silence. But one case stood out. When 18-year-old Brenda Woodard was found in Maryland, a note was discovered in her coat pocket. The message was unsettling. It hinted that the killer had written it himself, taunting the police and admitting the previous crimes. It was signed with the chilling name, the Freeway Phantom. Investigators chased countless leads. Some believe it could have been a group effort. Others thought it was a lone predator hiding in plain sight. But decades later, the case remains unsolved. No arrests, no justice. Whoever the Freeway Phantom was, they vanished just as mysteriously as they appeared, leaving behind one of the most disturbing highway mysteries America has ever seen. It started with a missing call girl named Shannon Gilbert in 2010. But what police stumbled on while searching for her would unearth one of the most chilling discoveries in modern true crime history. Along the quiet stretch of Ocean Parkway near Long Island's South Shore, investigators found human remains, but they didn't belong to Shannon. They belonged to 4 other women, all placed within a few hundred feet of each other. The deeper they searched, the darker it got. More remains surfaced, a total of 11 victims over time. Some dismembered, some unidentified, and all linked by one thing: proximity to a remote highway, hidden just out of view from passing cars. The media dubbed the unknown predator the Long Island serial killer. And for years, there were no answers, no suspect, and no justice served. But then, in 2023, a name finally surfaced: Rex Heuermann, a Manhattan architect living a quiet suburban life. He was arrested and charged with multiple murders, but questions still remain. Was he the only one involved? Are there more victims hidden along that lonely road? And what really happened to Shannon Gilbert, the woman who started it all? Even with a suspect behind bars, the mystery of the highway remains far from over. From Pennsylvania to Tennessee to Kentucky, a string of bodies began appearing along the highways in the 1980s. They were all women. They were all found near major roads or truck stops, and most had one eerie thing in common. They all had red or reddish-brown hair. With no clear suspect and few clues, the FBI began linking the cases together under a single name: the Redhead Murders. Some of the victims were never identified. Some were killed 100 miles apart, but the patterns were undeniable. Each body dumped like discarded evidence, left in the wake of a phantom killer crisscrossing the country. Theories exploded. Was it a long-haul trucker using the open road to cover his tracks? A serial predator targeting a specific type of woman? In 2018, decades after the first body was found, a group of high school students studying criminal justice actually helped renew interest in the case, bringing attention back to the victims and pushing for new DNA testing. And while a few victims have finally been identified through forensic genealogy, the killer or killers remain unknown. To this day, the Redhead Murders are a chilling reminder of how easy evil can hide in plain sight, especially on the open highway. It's one of the most haunting stretches of road on the East Coast, and one of the most mysterious. Between 1986 and 1989, Virginia's Colonial Parkway, an otherwise quiet, scenic route surrounded by woods and history, became the site of something far more sinister. It started with Kathy Thomas and Rebecca Dowski. The couple was found in their car, strangled, their throats slashed with terrifying precision. The vehicle had been pushed down an embankment, just out of view, as if the killer wanted them hidden, but not too well. Then, another couple and another. In total, 4 couples vanished or were murdered along or near the Colonial Parkway. Some were found shot, others strangled. One pair disappeared entirely. Their car found abandoned, keys still in the ignition. Their bodies were never recovered. But here's the part that still baffles investigators to this day. There were no signs of robbery, no clear motive. In several cases, there wasn't even a struggle. It was as if the victims trusted the person who approached them. And that's where the rumors started. Some believed it was a lone killer, calculated, methodical, hitting in plain sight. Others had a darker theory that it was someone in uniform, a police officer, a park ranger, someone with enough authority that couples alone on a dark road wouldn't think twice before rolling down their window. Despite FBI involvement, psychological profilers, and countless leads, no one has ever been charged. The Colonial Parkway murders remain unsolved. The killer, if it was just one, was never caught, never identified, never seen again. And for those who still drive that road at night, some say they feel like they're being watched by history, by ghosts, or maybe by someone who's still out there. There's a stretch of road in British Columbia, Canada, so remote, so quiet, it almost feels like another world. But for decades, Highway 16 has carried a much darker name, the Highway of Tears. Since the 1970s, dozens of women, mostly indigenous, have vanished or been found murdered along this 450-mile route. Between Prince George and Prince Rupert, their stories share chilling similarities. Young, female, often hitchhiking, because in these rural communities, there's no public transportation, no taxis, no other option. Some were last seen walking alone, others with friends, only to vanish minutes later. Their bodies, when found, were often discovered deep in the woods, just out of sight from the road. And far too many were never found at all. For years, these cases were ignored, dismissed, written off as runaways or accidents, but families knew better. They begged for help, pleaded for answers, and when no one came, they started putting up their own billboards, their own warnings that would read, "Girls, don't hitchhike on the Highway of Tears." The Royal Canadian Mounted Police eventually confirmed at least 18 victims, though some believe the real number is closer to 40, maybe more. And while a few arrests have been made, the overwhelming majority remain unsolved. No justice and no closure, just silence stretching across hundreds of miles of lonely highway. Some believe it's the work of a serial killer. Others say it's many predators, truckers, opportunists, monsters hiding behind the steering wheels of passing cars. But one thing's for sure, whoever's responsible, they knew exactly what they were doing, and they used the remnants of the highway, its silence, its shadows, as their perfect cover. To this day, the Highway of Tears isn't just a road, it's a graveyard of forgotten voices, and the pavement still carries the weight of every one of them. Just off I-45 between Houston and Galveston, there's a patch of land that looks ordinary, empty, flat, unremarkable. But don't let that fool you, because this place has a name whispered with fear: the Texas Killing Fields. It started in the early 1970s. A young woman disappeared, then another and another. By the time anyone connected the dots, bodies have begun surfacing in an overgrown stretch of abandoned oil fields and marsh land. Most of them girls and young women, some barely teenagers. Some were found posed and others were dumped like trash. Many had been missing for weeks, some for years, and dozens never even identified. The proximity to Interstate 45 earned the highway a chilling nickname, the Highway to Hell, because whoever was doing this was using the road to hunt, to vanish, to kill again. Over the years, suspects came and went. One man was convicted of a single murder. Another was linked through DNA. But even with the arrests, the killings didn't stop. That's when authorities started to wonder, what if it wasn't one killer? What if the Texas killing fields weren't the work of a single predator, but a dumping ground for many? Truckers, drifters, and even locals. People who knew no one would look too closely in a place like this. Even now, bodies are still being found, and for the families of the missing, the pain doesn't fade, because they know that somewhere just off the shoulder of I-45, the past is buried, and the truth might still be out there, waiting to be uncovered. These highways were built to connect us, to carry us from one place to another, but somewhere along the way, they became something else: a hunting ground, a graveyard, a place where people vanish and answers never come. And the scariest part, any one of these killers could still be out there, driving beside you, passing you at a rest stop, watching from the dark. But these aren't the only cases like this. There are more highways, more victims, more stories that were buried until now. If you want to keep going down this road with me, make sure you subscribe, turn on post notifications so you don't miss a video, because the next story is even darker.